This is Cameron Burgess, and you're listening to the Fulham Focus podcast.
Fulham.
Hello, welcome to the Fulham Focus podcast. My name's Matt Boisclair, and well, it certainly wasn't the result we'd hoped for at lunchtime at Craven Cottage on Saturday as Arsenal ran out deserved 3-0 winners. However, there were definite positives and signs of encouragement to take from the performance at least. Arsenal were too strong for us on the day, but as opening day defeats go, I'm certainly not in any way despondent. Let's see if my friends feel the same though. Firstly, joining me is a man who is fresh from his performance at Craven Cottage on live French TV at full time. And he also filled his camera roll up with lots of socially distant selfies too. Bonjour, Will Oakley. Comment ça va?
I have absolutely no idea what that means, but we will move forwards.
Good grief. What are they teaching you kids these days? Also joining me is a man who has cycled almost as many miles this week as Baldo has had calories. It's Morgan Calton. Hello, mate. You all well?
Hello, mate. Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Good stuff. Come on then, let's go.
Fulham.
So let's start where we always do then, lads, the starting lineup. I don't think many of us realistically expected to see many of the new signings in the lineup, but only Areola made the bench, as Scott Parker said the others aren't quite ready yet. Faith was kept with the side that's got us promoted Faith was kept with the side that got us promoted a few weeks ago, and the biggest surprise was, of course, Mitro being on the bench. Morgs, what was your first reaction when you saw the team?
I wasn't overly surprised with the team itself. Obviously, the only surprise in it was the fact that AK was starting up top. I thought Mitro would be, surefire just to sort of come in. The fact that we didn't have any of our new signings anywhere in the squad was a bit surprising. I mean, Areola, obviously, given the fact that Bettinelli's now at Middlesbrough, was definitely going to happen. Because obviously it was whether a call between him and Rodak, given the fact that Rodak had been in international duty this week. But the fact that none of them made the squad was interesting from the point of view of, did Scott just not think they were ready, or did he want to just give that side who made it through the playoffs the opportunity to show what they were made of? And I think, given what we saw today, yesterday, it won't be long before we see those new members of the squad coming in.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I think Mitrovic, like you say, was probably the biggest surprise. I would have really liked to see him start, and I think we saw that kind of later on when he came on. Obviously, he came on with Anguissa, but I think Mitrovic also did create a lot of the chances for us and quite good hold-up play. I think another thing was Knockout being dropped. I think Cav and Cabano actually did do quite well, but I would like to see Knockout probably at least coming on the pitch from the bench earlier, kind of in the second half, and maybe dropping Cabano for a bit as well, because he's good and we all love him for his free kick masterclass, but I don't really think he can start games against top 6 sides in the Premier League.
It's interesting, actually. Scott Parker said after the game, when he was asked, that this was the best team that we had available. Lamina wasn't quite ready, and the new signings that we made last week weren't quite ready. Do you think that he was just? Do you think that was a bit of nonsense? Do you think that he was just really did think I'm gonna play the players that got us up? Was that a bit of man management, perhaps, to try and breathe some confidence into those players that they are good enough at this level? Or do you think genuinely that the new signings just weren't ready?
I think it was a bit of both, to be honest. I think we've got a squad of players who last season did amazingly well to get us promoted. Obviously, going out from the Championship is such a hard act to, fulfill. Now, they got us up, but we all know, and I'm pretty sure Scott knows, that those players aren't good enough. Just the ones that got us up aren't good enough in themselves to make us competitive in this league. But with the right additions to the squad, we are. There are some good squad players in there. maybe not all of them Premiership quality or Premier League quality, but then you look at someone like Sheffield United and how well they did. Would you look at them and go, all their players are Premier League quality? No. This, in terms of the players that have come in, because we didn't have a decent pre-season, I think Scott's right. They probably weren't ready because they've got to come in and learn a whole new system. They've got to learn the way that we play. And in order to sort of come straight into the team, they have to be incredibly well drilled. And we only had 1, maybe 2 pre-season games for those players to actually get to learn it. So I think he was right. I think this was the best team playing the system that we had available.
All right, mate. Well, in the first minute, a defensive mix-up and good anticipation from Abubakar Kamara gave us a great early chance. Cabano then had a good chance with a header, which kind of skimmed off the top of his head from a Tom Kearney cross. Will, you've got to take chances like this at this level, don't you? We're not going to get loads and loads and loads of chances every week, and when we do get them, we have to take them. Yeah,
definitely. I think Kamara's chance, he actually did really well to get there first, although the keeper did sort of get there literally half a second after. That's why he didn't get past him. I think it was good anticipation to actually get to the ball first, which, to be fair, is something that Mitrovic might not have even gone for, let alone actually get to. He's definitely not quick enough for that. And he was unlucky to get past the keeper, and he probably could have done it a bit differently with taking a heavier touch, but it's unlucky. And it was at that point where I was like, yeah, we're, creating good opportunities. We could actually get a goal or two out of this game. Obviously it didn't turn out like that, but that's definitely a few positives to take out of that match.
Yeah, well, it was a defensive cock-up that led to that chance. And speaking of defensive cock-ups, it wasn't long before Marek Rodak was picking the ball out the back of the net for 1-0 to Arsenal. Tim Ream's a full guy, but was it really that much of a bad error? Michael Hector did something similar against Cardiff in the playoff semi-final when the ball came at him quickly. And these things just happen to defenders. I think Tim Ream's going to be a walking target this season anyway, given the fact that everybody has recognised that we do need to upgrade in central defence. Morgs, what were your thoughts on the goal? Was anyone to blame? Do you blame Tim Ream, or was the criticism that he's getting on social media quite harsh?
I personally, I tweeted about it. I sort of said I think that was, it was a sloppy goal from a team point of view, but I think that the criticism that was laid at his feet, it was almost premeditated. It only was going to take one mistake from Ream for everyone to jump on his back. Sorry, everyone, a good proportion of fans to jump on his back, because they have earmarked him as the person to be replaced. Now, you look at the goal, and the ball, the Willian's shot it came quickly at him. I'm not quite sure what he was doing there. It was a weird positioning for a start, but came at him, and the way it bounced, it was a strange bounce that came off him. It was unlucky. And any other time it could have gone off the other way, and gone into sort of out for a throw in or something like that. But the reality is, he should have been hoofing that clear. But the speed it came at, who knows? Maybe he just didn't have time to think. But I think that the criticism that he is receiving is incredibly harsh, given the fact that I thought he was better than Hector throughout the game. And he read the game better. He seemed much more composed. Hector seemed off the pace throughout it. And in reality, should he have still been on the pitch at the end of it? He was, conceded quite a few fouls after he was booked. And you do wonder if that was just a little bit of time settling in to the pace of the game, because that was his first Premier League appearance, or, is he as good as we thought he was? Now, I'm not going to say no, he's not, because it's been one game, and it was against a team where he had Aubameyang and Lacazette running at him, and any defender's going to struggle with that because they're quality players. But I think any sort of criticism that Ream received was probably double because of who he is. The guy has been a great servant to us, and for people to start sort of having a go at him straight off the bat, it's just I don't like it, and I think he deserves a lot more respect for the amount of appearances he's made for us and the service he's given us in his time here.
No, you've hit the nail on the head there. It is about respect, and I can't believe that people have such disrespect for somebody who's been at the heart of our defence during 2 promotion campaigns. All right, last time round he was pretty crap in the Premier League, and he'll always be judged by the fact that he didn't cope well, particularly against pacey players. But it's a fresh season now. We're a different team to the one we were. And why shouldn't he get a second crack at the whip? I mean, we haven't signed another centre-half yet, and we're going to be stuck with Tim Ream. And getting on at him is going to do the team no favours whatsoever. You touched upon Michael Hector there. Will, I'm going to come to you now. It could have been 2-0 just before half an hour when Willian hit the post from a free kick given away by Michael Hector. Morgs, you mentioned that he was booked for that tackle and then persistently fouled throughout the game. Will, it definitely wasn't the big man at his best, was it?
No, definitely not. I think, like you were saying, he was off the mark and he didn't play his best, nowhere near. In the Championship, he was dominating attackers. Like you said, Morgan, when Aubameyang and Lacazette are running at you, no defender's going to have the game of his life, is he? But it wasn't his best performance by no means. And the fouls, I think, were stupid. I think the whole team, but especially Hector, were probably feeling quite a lot of pressure because Hector's just been one of our standout performers in the Championship. And now he's starting his first ever Premier League game and he's been chucked against a team who have just beat Chelsea and Liverpool. It's hard for him to adjust to life in the Premier League because although he's been at a Premier League club for years, this is finally his big chance to step up to the challenge. So he's going to want to prove himself more than anyone. I think he'll be all right for the next few games. It's just the first game is going to be hard to sort yourself out. And hopefully he does get better. I also think that Ream, can do a good job at this level against the lower teams. I think we all want a left centre-back to kind of play alongside Hector that isn't Ream. But I think he made his 200th appearance against Arsenal. And it is about respect, like you guys say. So him and Hector, we've seen them work well in the Championship. And I think they can work well in the Prem. We just have to give them time to sort of adjust to the Premier League, the pace and the physicality of the game.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking, is the fact that people seem to forget that our defence, after the first 2 games post-lockdown, our defence was brilliant. And throughout the season, we were incredibly good at defending 1-0 leads. And for some reason, yes, Ream had a terrible season, much like every other player in our squad last time in the Premier League. And I just think people need to realise that, yes, he may not be the best centre-back, but they have a very good partnership. And we only have to look back to the Hughes-Hangland partnership to realise that you don't have to be the best player. If you have a good understanding with your fellow centre-back, you may turn into a brilliant partnership. Because Aaron Hughes, if you look at him at any other club, he wasn't brilliant. He was all right. But him and Hangland together, they were amazing. And I think we have to sort of think, yes, we could find a better centre-back. And if a top quality one became available that we're able to get hold of, then yeah, sure, bring him in. But we haven't found that yet. And I think for now, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know each other well enough to be able to sort of do us a good job at the moment.
And you've got to remember as well, we were up against some of the best players in the world on Saturday afternoon against Arsenal. Aubameyang, 22 goals last season. Very difficult to defend against anyway at the best of times. But particularly when supporters of your own club haven't got your back. And that's what I feel it is at the moment. I just feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot as supporters by getting on at our own players. One game in against one of the biggest clubs in the country. It's nonsense. So get behind them, for God's sake. Going forward, I think we had plenty of possession, and Arsenal we found difficult to break down. I thought we looked pretty good aside from the lack of chances, though, and we were certainly getting balls into the box in the first half. We just needed somebody in the box to get on the end of them, and it's just a shame that Mitrovic was adjudged to not be fully fit to start the game. Will, do you think that we're going to get some goals this season from those crosses into the box if Mitrovic starts?
It looks like it. I mean, like you're saying, somehow we've just started crossing, which we didn't do much of last season, definitely didn't last time we were in the Prem. But Cav and Cabano were definitely playing in quite a few crosses. I think that's something that Cav's kind of Premier League experience does help him with. He knows kind of how defenders play, and he's played out on the wing for Wolves in the Prem before, and he knows how to beat a fullback. So I think that it can definitely work. I mean, it would be so Fulham if Mitro comes into the squad and we don't do any crosses, but hopefully we do carry on doing crosses, and hopefully Mitrovic can get maybe 15 goals at least. That would be great.
And Morgs, even Dennis Adoy was working quite well on the overlap as well. But I think we're probably eventually going to see, Tete and Aina come into the side down that right hand side. But yeah, I mean, Dennis Adoy, he's put a shout in at least to put himself in for contention to compete with those players.
Yeah, the thing is with Dennis, you're going to get a shift from him, and when he knew he needed to be in a particular position, you're always going to get that. He is the most reliable player out there. Yes, okay, he's not the best sometimes, but he's reliable. He's not the most attacking either. That's why I think he started today over Cyrus, because Scott realised that you don't need to be playing with attacking fullbacks. I mean, obviously you had Joe Bryan, but knowing that Aubameyang is going to be coming at you, you need to have some form of solidity at the back. Obviously, it didn't quite pan out as we'd hoped, but that Dennis can get down that flank if need be. But you're right, he is likely to be replaced by Tete. To be honest, I don't know a huge amount about that guy, but I assume he's quite good at sort of bombing down the right. But we also might start seeing Dennis drafted into the centre-back as well. If we play 5-3-2, it's a good chance we'll be seeing Ream, Hector and Odoi playing along the back three. Surely a better option than Maxime. So I think we will still be seeing him on the pitch, just not quite sure where at the moment.
I don't mind Maxime Le Marchand. I think he gets a lot of unfair stick as well. But anyway, let's talk more about...
It's just that he's not very good. That's the problem.
Well, sure.
With all due respect, he's a bit shit.
He's just a bit shit. No, I disagree with that. I think that's harsh. But anyway, let's move on, because Le Marchand didn't even get onto the pitch against Arsenal. Let's carry on talking about the defence a little bit more, because in the second half we made the worst possible start. We conceded a goal from a corner. It's just textbook corner, and Gabriel scores on his debut. Hector was rooted to the spot. Rodat was rooted to the spot. They were crowded out by the Arsenal attack, and I just felt like it was really poorly defended by us. Will, what did you make of it?
Yeah, you're right. I think it's Hector's fault. There's no denying that. But then again, like you said, we don't want to get on the players' back. It takes time to adjust, and hopefully that's something that Parker should now see, and then, work on it with the squad. Although defending corners sounds quite basic, when you're playing against these Prem teams who have practiced set pieces, multiple times a day, I would imagine, it is going to be hard to defend against. It always is. I think maybe
it doesn't have to be, though, because you can drill a team to defend corners, and that corner was just whipped into the 6-yard box, and our central defender's job is to head that away, and our central defenders didn't jump. They stood there.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough by Hector, definitely not. But I think, again, it's just something taking time to adjust, and maybe, I don't know. It's just a step up from the Championship, isn't it, really? I think, for some reason, whenever a player scores on their debut, like against Fulham, it just annoys me even more, because just like, that's going to be shown all over Twitter and whatever. Gabriel scores on his debut against Fulham. Yeah, brilliant. Cheers. But I don't know. He seems good for them, to be fair, and he's probably one of the main reasons why we didn't end up scoring. But yeah, that just annoys me.
That was a frustrating goal to concede, but 10 minutes later, and there was a moment of real quality from Aubameyang. Great ball over the top from Willian. Aubameyang takes it and sticks it in the top corner. 3-0, game, set and match Arsenal. Don't think anybody was particularly at fault for this. Morse, what did you make of the goal?
Well, it was just kind of another worldy goal that Arsenal score that begins down the right flank towards the Putney end. It was almost like the same as the Ramsey goal 2 years ago. And yeah, it was just one of those goals that you see from a team who are very good. They may not have had the best last few seasons, but they have some quality players. And that is just one of those goals that you see that sets them apart from teams like us. And I think you're right. The finish was brilliant. I think, again, without sort of going on about Hector, he looked a little bit weak at one point when he fell over on the halfway line. But you can't argue with how good it was. And, Aubameyang is one of the best forwards in the game. And as soon as he was on the edge of the penalty area, you just knew where the ball was going, and we weren't able to stop it. So I think there's no arguments about the quality of it. It's just a bit crap that by that point it meant that the game was over and we still had half an hour to go.
Yeah, you're right. Well, with half an hour to go, on comes Mitrovic and on comes Anguissa as well in place of Kamara and Cabano. Straight away, Anguissa pushed us forward. He was like a breath of fresh air for me in the team. He looked very good, very composed and very direct. And I think that's sometimes what we lack. I know Josh Onomah brings a certain amount of directness to our play as well, heading for goal. And it surprised me, actually, after the game in our team chat that a couple of the guys said, I don't get it about Anguissa. I thought he looked a bit bland and I don't get all the fuss. Will, what did you make of Anguissa? Do you think he could still have a future at the club?
Yeah, 100%. I've said it since he came back on loan from Villarreal that he can be great for Fulham, especially if we stay up. I think he's a player that we can definitely build as the club kind of builds as hopefully a mid-table Prem team, let's say. Not this season, but in future seasons. I think he's just one of those players. He's still young. We did pay a lot of money for him, but hopefully in the coming seasons, he'll be where we do get our money's worth. I think when him and Mitro for me as well, I just think they actually linked up quite nicely. When we first bought Anguissa, he played a bit deeper, but towards the end of the relegation season, he started to push up a bit. And I think that's kind of where he played yesterday, kind of in the box-to-box role. And I think that was much better. I think for me, I would start him, Reed, and Kearney or Onomah next game. I thought Kearney was all right, but we know what Onomah can bring to the table. So for me, Reed, Anguissa and Onomah would be a great midfield three. Reed provides the holding midfielder, Onomah pushing forwards, and Anguissa right in the middle, who can do a bit of both. I think that's a really balanced midfield and something that can definitely work in the Premier League.
I've got to agree with you. I mean, I look at those three players, Reed, Anguissa and Onomah, and go, that is the core of our midfield. Now, in all fairness to Kearney, he's great, but he doesn't cut it in the Premier League. Or he certainly didn't last time. And you look at him and he doesn't offer as much as Anguissa can. And I think Onomah has to be on the pitch. Obviously, Reed does as well because he does all the tidying up in that role. But when Anguissa came on, he was like a very different player from what we saw when we had him first time around. And so I think he's probably learned over the last year at Villarreal. He certainly obviously got the plaudits over there. They wanted to sign him. And I think we've got to give him a chance. Now, he didn't seem to have the same attitude that Seri had, which is why I think he probably made it onto the bench while Seri didn't. And I think he does offer that kind of service that, we need. He is that bit of quality as well. So I think if he doesn't, demand a move, I think we should certainly keep him. And I think if he sort of, is allowed to, start a few games on the trot, I think he'll become an integral part of our team. And I do think it is going to be at the expense of Kearney, because he just doesn't offer the same amount that he used to. And I think in this league, you can't get away with that. Everyone needs to be on their game and everyone has their role. And we just don't know what Tom's role is now.
You guys made the comparison earlier on in the show about Sheffield United and saying that they don't necessarily have top players, but they're a sum of their parts, and they're a Premier League side on merit based on the sum of their parts. And we're hoping that that's going to be what we are. But for me, Anguissa is a very, very good player, definite Premier League quality on a standalone basis. And I think we started to see that a couple of years ago in the last few games when Scott Parker took over. And I think Scott Parker likes him. Scott Parker obviously likes a midfielder because he was a midfielder himself. And I can see Anguissa, if he does want to stay, the club clearly wants him to stay. I can see him being a big part of this side this season.
Do you think he left because he didn't want to play in the Championship, or do you think he left because of financial fair play?
Yeah, I think it was financial fair play. I think I actually read something, I can't remember where, probably Twitter, but I think it was also in some news article as well, that Anguissa actually said that he liked playing under Parker. I think that's good if you like playing under the manager. I've spoken on the podcast about Parker's man management, and all the players seems to like working under him. And that's good for Anguissa, because I think he's a player that can still grow into even better than he already is. I think Parker's the right person to kind of help him grow into that player in a way. I think also he is definitely better than the Championship, so I can understand why he would want to go on loan. But the thing is, if he says, I want to play for you guys in the Premier League, but I don't want to play in the Championship, I think, yeah, you could have stayed with us in the Championship, but that's fair enough. If you're better than the Championship, but you still want to play for us when we're in the big league and you still like the club, I think that's fair enough. Obviously, people will say that that's not very committed, but I think at the end of the day, you've got to also think about your own career moves as well. The fact that he's back here now and he's happy to play for us, that's enough for me.
Plus, he's only 24. So
Exactly,
he's still got a lot of growing to do. And in that particular role, he's got 2-3 years until he hits his peak. So I think if we can keep hold of him, we could have a really special player on our hands in kind of a bit of a likeness of Moussa Dembele the first, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
There's that kind of quality to him.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope he doesn't get too good too quickly. Then, otherwise, he'll be on his way anyway, as is what happens in these situations. Let's move on then, lads. Marek Rodak made a great close range save in the 71st minute from Lacazette, and then Joe Bryan blocked the follow up on the line from Tierney. I really felt it was good to see that although we were 3-0 down, we were still, bodies were being thrown on the line and the players were really fighting for each other. I think this shows great team spirit. What do you reckon, Will? That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think Rodak and Bryan, like those are the two players involved in that. I think they're both integral parts of the squad. And I've seen a lot of people talk about Areola maybe coming in for Rodak. And I think that's fair enough, but I think we've also got to give Rodak a chance against a team who doesn't have a Aubameyang in. I think we've got to maybe play him next game against Leeds, obviously after the cup game, but I think we've got to play him against Leeds because we're not going to be playing against Aubameyang every week.
And Rodak didn't do anything wrong, though. Rodak did nothing wrong.
Exactly. And although we were quite optimistic going in, maybe we'll get a draw out of it. It's Arsenal. They've just won the FA Cup and the Community Shield. We don't really have, that much chance against Aubameyang. So I think keep Rodak in there. And Bryan, I don't know why, but I feel like this time he's just going to be a lot better than he was last time in the Prem. I think although when we came back from lockdown, his defence didn't really look like it had improved. This time I feel like he's just got a new confidence about him, whether that's because he's playing under Parker or just because he wants to prove himself more, I'm not sure. But I think he can actually be a great left-back this season, and hopefully he is.
He's also got competition there.
Yeah, exactly.
They've brought in, they've signed a left-back. And if you are a left-back, or if you're in any position, and they bring in a player in your position, you know that you've got competition. If you're brought in to take over someone's role, you're the one that's going in going, they want me to fill in that role. So right now, he's basically swimming against the tide, making sure that he can keep his place in the team. And his confidence would have been built up, especially after the Wembley game. And so I think he's going to build on that. And he's clearly a very good player. And his service to Mitro, especially last season, was a real asset. So I think as long as he can work on his defensive abilities through this year and keep the confidence, in his play, I think you're right. I think we do have a quality player on our hands. And, in all fairness to Robinson, I hope he gets a few games. But I love Joe Bryan. you can't not love him. He seems like a lovely bloke, as well as, having scored those 2 goals. And you want to you want to cheer for him. You want to make sure that he can keep his place in the team on merit.
Yeah, good stuff, lads. All right, well, Bobby Reid replaced Josh Onomah with 15 minutes left. It just wasn't Josh's day, was it, Will? He was very quiet.
Yeah, he was. And like I said before, I think Kearney yesterday might have actually been a bit better than Onomah. But for me, Onomah, we just know he's got the class. He's younger. He needs to stay in the team, in my opinion. We know what he can bring to the table, especially against teams like Villa and Leeds. So I think it's a good idea to keep him in the team. Bobby Reid coming on. I mean, I know Danny absolutely hates Bobby Reid, but I think I'm starting to get there as well. I just don't know why he's playing, to be honest. I mean, did you see? I think he tried to chip Leno. It literally rolled along the floor. Like, what? What's the point? I don't understand. I mean, obviously there's a good player in there somewhere, because we signed him permanently, which I still don't understand. But also we signed him on loan after, he had, couple of seasons after he had the good season for Bristol where he was just scoring for fun. So there's obviously someone in there, but he hasn't really showed it yet. And I don't really want him to be replacing Onomah and trying to chip a top 6 goalkeeper, which is just never going to work. He just made him look like a bit of an idiot, really.
If you're going to shoot from the halfway line, you've got to get it somewhere near the goal at this level. And it's harsh. It's harsh to get on at Bobby Reid because, as you say, there's definitely a player in there. I feel like maybe we've brought him in, but didn't really know what to do with him or where to play him for the best, where to get the best out of him. And we've kind of used him in a variety of roles, and it just hasn't worked yet for him. He only got a couple of goals last season. Yeah, but we ended up making the transfer permanent. But wouldn't surprise me if eventually he went out on loan. But at the same time, I'm still kind of rooting for him because he hasn't had the best of times at Fulham so far, and I want to see him do well. I want to see all of our players do well. So I really hope somehow or another he can find his feet and we get the best out of him. Really hope that. Right, let's come on to your post-match summary then, lads. So 3-0's a crap start. Personally, I feel optimistic. I felt like we played pretty well. We worked hard. And as a starting point against a very good side, I think it's okay. All right, 3-0 sounds like, a terrible score, but I don't necessarily think that's any reason to be gloomy against a team with the Arsenal's quality. Morgs, give me your final thoughts on the game.
You're right. 3-0 on the face of it looks like a bad result. And the fact that we started off well, even if it was only for the first 9 minutes, kind of made me think, okay, this isn't going to be so bad. But then obviously 9 minutes gone, 1-0 down. It could have got worse. We held out in the first half. We showed resilience. We could have let our heads drop and been 2 or 3 down at half time, but we didn't. Obviously, the second goal was shit to concede. The third goal was quality, and we should have pushed more. I think for that, for a goal, even if it was just a consolation. We didn't get enough shots on target, but there was a team there. You could see there was a spirit within that team, and I think that is, that is something that we can look forward to. And I think under Parker, we certainly have a lot more structure than we did under Slav in that season last time. And I think looking at it, we need to write this game off. It was always going to be a hard game. And given the fact the team that we put out there was made up of players, some of which aren't quite up to this level, I think it showed that, we have a good squad, but we still need to strengthen it. And I think the players that we have brought in will do that. And I think, over the next few games, that will really be, a test of Parker's management. And I think we will build it up, but we can't get disheartened by a simple opening day defeat, because if we do that, then that will, the house of cards will come down, and it shouldn't do.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. I think it's a marathon, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We've just played against one of the strongest Premier League sides. Admittedly, they've struggled recently, but they look like they're going to go on to do good things this season. We've now got I don't want to say easy because no game's easy, but we've got a better run of games coming up than we have throughout the season. I think we just need to make the most out of those games. I think we can't just put our heads down now and think that's it. Like you say, 3-0 sounds bad, but there's lots and lots of positives to take from that game against a good side. So I think build on the positives, sort out some of the dodgy mistakes, and I think we'll be all right. Hopefully, if we get a few points out of the next few games, fans will kind of be happy with it. And if we, get 7 or let's say 6 out of 9 points, we should be about mid-table, if not, mid-table. And that will definitely get fans happier. And I think it's getting points on board will definitely motivate the players as well.
Yeah, we've got to target those specific games for points. But certainly games against the likes of Aston Villa and those teams that we think are going to be in the kind of bottom half around us. We've got to target those for points. So, I think you're right. All right, Will, I'm going to come straight back to you then. What's your Scott Parker rating for the opening game of the season?
I'm going to say a 6 out of 10. Nothing special. I didn't see any players stand out. But then, like I say, there's positives. And I think next week's Parker rating will be one of the bigger ones because that kind of depends on whether he's learned from yesterday or not. But I think for me, it's the thing that annoyed me a bit was not starting Mitro. I know he said he wanted to keep with the same team that won him the playoffs. And also, Mitro did just come back from international duty. But I think maybe Mitro could have started, but I understand why he didn't. So for me, 6 out of 10, just bang on average.
I'm going to go one up from that and say 7 out of 10. I don't think he did a great deal wrong. If he says that the new players aren't quite ready, then we have to believe him. All right, we can debate whether or not we think that's the case, but he said that, so we have to go with it. So he picked the best team that was available to him, and I don't think they did a bad job. We didn't create many opportunities, but I think we're going to struggle to create opportunities this season, if I'm honest. And unless we sign, a world-class central midfielder who can unlock defences, and we sign some players who run off the ball and create those angles. So 7 out of 10 for me. What about you, Morgs?
Yeah, I'm going to go 7 out of 10 as well. I think given the fact that the turnaround time between the playoff final and the start of the season was so short, he had to make a judgment call on whether, those players that he signed were ready, and he clearly thought they weren't. He knew the system he wanted to play. He knew the players that knew how to play it. You say the players that won in the playoff final, Mitro was on the pitch when we scored both our goals. So I think maybe that was more to do with his fitness after the international break and the fact that he had more time with AK. I would have liked to have seen Knockout come on. I think given how the game was panning out, I think a little bit of his quality would have been useful. But obviously he went with the other options. So I think overall it was, result aside, was an okay start. It seemed, after that game, I felt more confident than I did after the 2-0 defeat to Palace at the beginning of the 2018 season. So I think we can only look to build from here. And obviously the Leeds game is going to be hard, given how they performed at Anfield. But I think we can move through the next few games with a bit more confidence than the result would suggest.
Good stuff. All right, lads. Well, before we play Leeds next weekend, we have the small matter of Ipswich away in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday. Will, do you think that we're going to see a much changed side, and do you think that perhaps we'll see some new signings as well for the game at Ipswich?
I think we will, actually. I think players like Lamina will definitely, okay. He should get a chance, I think, to maybe get a bit of match fitness up before the Prem. Also, I'm not sure if Mitrovic might, because he didn't really play much against Arsenal, of course. Personally, I wouldn't, because I think you should just save him. I think he doesn't really need match fitness. He's been playing on international duty. He knows what the Prem's like. He should be all right. But I do understand if Parker wants to take him to Ipswich to kind of maybe get him ready for the Leeds match. Personally, I think you just got to give players like Stansfield and Jasper a bit of a run out. Maxime Lemarchand, maybe play Adoy if you're thinking of playing Christie against Leeds, or vice versa. Anthony Robinson, I think, could definitely get a chance because he obviously signed first and he will probably get some game time. But yeah, I don't really know which key players are going to play, but I'd imagine it will be mostly bench players, new signings and youngsters. Or that's what I think I would do, because to get the players that don't usually play, get them to play.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we'll see 11 changes. I think we'll get. I think Areola will start goal to give him a go, and I think we'll see probably a whole new back line. Christie, I don't see much of a place for him regularly moving forward, so I think we'll probably see him play. Robinson definitely will get in there. Centre backs, Maxime and another. So, and then the midfield. It could be one of many. Midfield and forwards could be one of many players there. So I think we'll definitely see a much changed lineup. I don't think Mitro will be bothering to go up there. He might be on the bench just in case, but I don't think Parker's putting enough interest in this tournament to warrant even sort of seeing him on the coach. So we'll see.
Do you think it might be like Kevin McDonald and Stefan Johansson being put in the shop window?
Yeah, I think K-Mac will probably captain the side. Steph Joe, K-Mac and Lamina maybe in midfield. Should be get a couple of bookings anyway.
But I guess we're going to see people like McDonald and Steph Joe leave, are we? On loan at least. So that's what I expect.
Steph Joe definitely. I think I'm one of many that would like to see K-Mac stay just for his influence around the dressing room, because he is a captain, without the armband in this case. And so I think he's useful just to have around.
Yeah, I think McDonald is kind of not too bothered about the football now. He's had a few injuries of late, or he's definitely slowing down as well. Or we've seen that over the last few seasons. But yeah, I think the reason why he did really well under Slavisa was just because of the system. I think he was already declining there, to be honest. And now, obviously, it's been 2 years since that promotion squad, the original promotion. So, yeah, I think he's there. He's a good influence on the youngsters. He can help. And I think most people like me would be happy to see him get a coaching role eventually.
He's a terrible influence on the youngsters.
Yeah.
You do not want him around the younger players. You want him around the first team squad, staying too far away from those young, impressionable players that we have in our under 23s.
I feel really depressed now. A 17-year-old sitting there saying that a 31-year-old is like slowing down. He's bloody 8 years younger than I am.
I keep forgetting he's only 31. I feel like he's like 42. He could, for his position, he could play for another 5 years or so if he wanted to.
That's true, I suppose.
Because I could still play. I'm 36. I could still play that holding midfield role quite happily. But
as they say in FIBA pitch, mate, it's not your age that's keeping you away from the game. It's the crapness.
Yeah. No one wants a 5'5" holding midfielder. Put it that way.
Great stuff. All right, well, that's it from us this time. We'll have our Leeds preview show, which will include a Kevin McDonald in focus chat. Very apt. That will be out first thing on Thursday morning this week. Lads, thanks ever so much for joining me. And of course, thanks to everyone listening. And I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.
Fulham.